Anarchism does not mean statelessness. That's a misconception. It means no forced state. So the state cannot force itself on you. Anarchism sees the state as something voluntary, that people naturally and organically, through the flow of life, should organize and form their own states. So today, we are forced to do many things, right? You have to pay taxes. If not, you can go to jail. So the state forces you to follow certain laws, live in a certain way. If you disobey, the police comes and maybe puts you to jail. Are you free to disobey the laws and regulations that are imposed on you by the state? Yes, you are. But the consequence of disobeying is force or punishment or pain. So then you can look at it practically and say, how much of a choice do you have? You don't have a choice. So if you zoom out and take the red pill, because the Matrix movie and V for Vendetta are about this seeing the truth, kind of, and seeing how the state oppresses you and makes you a machine. How much freedom do you really have? We don't really have so much freedom. We have to work. We have to pay our bills. If we don't work for that employer who maybe oppress us and are really nasty towards us, the punishment is that we don't have any money. And if we don't have any money, we suffer. So therefore, we don't really have a choice. We have to go to work. So that's force. And we have to pay our bills and follow the law, even though we completely do not agree with the law, or else we will be punished by the state. And if we don't work, we will be punished by poverty. And maybe it's not so easy to find a new job. So we have these tyrannies, right, of the corporation and the tyranny of the state that completely removes our freedom and enforces itself upon us and forces us to live in certain ways that we might not want or might not be good for us or else. Now, where do you draw the line? So, for example, if you were a black man in South Africa 50 years ago living in apartheid, you were state regulated by a forced state that you're less of a human being than a white person. During apartheid, as a black man, you are less of a human being than a white man. Is this right? Just because the state is the state, does the state have the right to force itself upon you as a black man like this and tyrannize you, remove your freedom, say to you that you're less of a human being and you have to accept it? The anarchist says no. That's anarchism. So obviously there is a line, because right now everywhere in Europe and in the Western world, far-right parties, fascist parties and Nazi parties are growing. In Sweden, you have Sweden Democrats. They are Nazi party, whitewashed, 20%. In Germany, you have Alternative for Deutschland. You have fascist parties in Italy, fascist parties in Spain, Le Pen in France. You have Trump in the United States. How far can these fascist leaders go? You have Viktor Orban in Hungary, who says he does not want race mixing. Just because you are the state, you are a ruler, you are a leader, you're a president, can you do anything you want to your people? And do you have a moral right to enforce yourself on the people and force them to obey you, even if you are a crazy Nazi who oppress people and completely take away their freedom? The anarchist says no. Anarchism is that there is no state that has the right by its statehood to oppress you or completely immorally remove your freedom and force you to do things you don't want. No. Anarchism says people should, from the bottom up, form voluntary associations. So the anarchist sees a state as something that you choose. So if you are born in North Korea and you cannot escape, that's the polar opposite of anarchism, because you don't have a choice. But if you choose to go somewhere and you choose to be a part of it, that's anarchism. So for example, in Ukraine, there are Russian minorities that feel, according to many sources, whether this is true or not, I leave it up to you, that they don't get freedom, the Ukrainian nationalists oppress them and fight against them and so on. Do they have the right to break away from this Ukrainian state and form their own Donetsk People Republic, Lugansk People Republic? The anarchist says yes, because it's voluntary association, they choose so. The Kurds in northern Iraq and Syria, the Kurds for a long time have felt that they don't get justice in Turkey, they don't get justice in Iraq and so on. They are oppressed as a minority. Do they have the right to form their own little sort of state, if you will, with their own culture, own norms, own laws? The anarchist says yes. You see? America, Nation of Islam is anarchist by its nature. Nation of Islam says black people should get freedom, justice, equality. If we can't get freedom, justice, equality, we should have the right to form our own nation and our own land. That's anarchist by nature. Because it says that America does not have the right to enforce a system of racism and oppression on black people. If we can't be treated equal, we should break away and do our own thing. It's anarchist by nature. Some people say that America is very divided right now. You have Republicans in the South, Democrats in the coasts. And it's very polarized. The anarchist solution would be, okay, let them split. Let the Republicans have their own and the Democrats own, because it's free association.